Thank you for all being here this morning as we take a very important step in our great city on public safety, on meaningful and lasting police reform, and on true community policing. I have had the great fortune to spend decades working with and around the Seattle Police Department and our criminal justice system. As a criminal defense lawyer, as a chief federal prosecutor, as a community member of a number of blue ribbon panels, and today as mayor. I could not be more proud of where we are today. A city's approach to public safety and criminal justice is one of the most visible expressions of a city's values. Our city is the fastest growing city in America. We have become a big city with big city challenges and big city opportunities. Every day, we ask our police to meet these challenges in a very complex and changing environment. Our next police chief has the responsibility to keep our city safe as we grow, to build a police force for the changing and demanding circumstances of a growing city, to embrace accountability, transparency, and reforms under our consent decree, and to improve and build on community trust in the Seattle Police Department in every corner of our great city. We need a chief who understands that if we want and expect the men and women of SPD to go out every day and protect us, we must give them the tools, the training, and the support they need to do their jobs. At the same time, we need a chief who understands to truly enhance public safety in every part of our city. And to make the job easier for everyone at SPD, we must continue to increase and expand prevention efforts and address the root causes of crime, to give people real opportunity to succeed, to embrace interventions that reduce violence and divert people from the criminal justice system, to ensure accountable law enforcement, and to deeply engage and listen to our communities, our businesses, and our residents throughout this city. The search for our next chief of police incorporated all of these goals, and it meant engaging and listening to voices across this city. More than 3,000 people from all corners of Seattle were directly involved in the choice of our chief. All three of the chief finalists spoke at a series of 7 community meetings across this great city, including one specially for our youth. They also met with the Community Police Commission, the Seattle Police Officers Guild, businesses, Seattle leaders, the city attorney, and the federal monitor under consent decree. I then got feedback from all those individuals and groups. I heard from our immigrant and refugee neighbors, from families that have been impacted by police violence, from advocates for criminal justice reform, for former and current law enforcement officers and prosecutors, from rank and file officers, from business leaders, and from so many in our neighborhoods and our community, even in the grocery store and the coffee line. I actually love that Seattle never lacks for passionate opinions. And I listened to them all. I studied the background materials. I talked to several other mayors in Seattle and other mayors across the country. I watched the candidates answer tough questions in community forums and to the media. I thought deeply about what are those qualities and characteristics we need for a great police chief and an excellent police department. I also was able to meet with all of the candidates multiple times and interviewed, not grilled them, interviewed them. And based on all of that, based on my experience, I have no question that Chief Carmen Best is the person to lead the police department to the next level in the city of Seattle. She will be our next chief of police. She has earned this through hard work, dedication, and service. She will work her heart out, and I believe she will make our city proud. Last December, I chose Chief Best as interim chief because I thought she was the best person for that role. She has a passion for her job, for their officers, and for our city. For 26 years, she has risen through the ranks of the Seattle Police Department, performing roles from patrol on up. She served as deputy chief under Kathy O'Toole and now is interim chief of police. Everyone knows Chief Best and knows she can deliver results. They have seen her lead. They have seen her commitment to police reform, to public safety, and to making sure that we have a department committed to true community policing. As U.S. Attorney, I worked with Carmen Best in a number of roles. I saw her passion, her caring, and her dedication to community and public safety. And what's always struck me about her is her unflagging enthusiasm for her job, her dedication to the city, and her belief that she can and always wants to work for the best police department in America. She knows our city and our officers. She has worked in every neighborhood and understands the unique public safety challenges facing every one of our communities. She has an unparalleled work ethic. You can't keep up with her. Above all else, she has three things that I think any chief of police in the city of Seattle must have: a commitment to public safety, a commitment to the hard work of accountability and reform, and a commitment to true community policing. She's not just committed to reforms, she helped get us here and make it real. For years, she has made sure that what we needed to do under the consent decree was not just a checkbox operation, but something that went to the root culture of the Seattle Police Department. She and I have had numerous discussions about the consent decree, the Seattle Police Department, and the future of the Seattle Police Department. Neither one of us is satisfied with the status quo. Both of us want the best police department in the country, and we know that this community expects and deserves a department that continues to improve and does not just stay in sustainment, but gets even better. Our community also deserves someone who shows they have the ability to build trust and confidence with people throughout this city. And Carmen Best has that ability. She shares my commitment to true community policing, to increasing diversity, and to helping make sure that our officers reflect the community that they serve. In the coming weeks, the City Council will consider the nomination of Chief Best for the permanent role of Chief of Police. I know that many of our council members have known Chief Best for years, and I've spoken with some of them already. She has not just done 26 years in Seattle, from a patrol officer to supervisor to now interim chief. She's done it every day, listening, showing up, and making sure things get done right. I will then now hand it over to the next person that I hope and am confident will be our permanent Chief of Police, Chief Best.
Excited. So I'm not sure what you're anticipating more, the chief search or the response to the lip sync battle, but we're here. First, I want to thank Mayor Durkan for this opportunity. I sincerely appreciate it. She and I, as she mentioned, share the same public safety vision, moving Seattle forward and making this city the best city for everyone. I'd also like to take this moment to especially thank the men and women, both sworn and civilian, of the Seattle Police Department who serve this city every day with service, pride, and dedication. Trust me when I say the Seattle Police Department is one of the premier agencies in the country, and I look forward to being the chief. I'd also like to thank the community for their unwavering support, many of whom are in this room I've worked with for over 2.5 decades. I sincerely thank them all. Every day, our officers show up and are committed to making Seattle a safer city. With our rapid growth comes new challenges for public safety and new demands on policing. Our department needs to reflect our growing city and the community that we serve. This means increasing the number of officers who are working in our communities. Here in Seattle and across the country, our officers are being asked to do more, especially at the complicated intersection of public health and public safety. We must continue to provide support and access to resources to members of our community who are struggling with mental health crisis, addiction, and homelessness. Since 2012, Seattle has been under a court-ordered consent decree for unconstitutional policing. The reforms created a foundation for an accountable police department that serves the public and enhances public safety in a way that is consistent with our community values and the Constitution. We enacted significant reforms, new use of force policies and trainings that emphasize de-escalation, a new approach to how officers interact with people experiencing mental crisis, new supervision and oversight with community involvement, and with community involvement and helping to create enhanced trust. There has been a decrease in uses of force overall, including a 60% reduction in the most serious uses of force and a significant decline in force used against people in crisis. 7 months ago in January, Honorable Judge James Robart ruled that the City of Seattle was in full and effective compliance, but we know that the work is not done, not in Seattle and not across our country. As the new police chief, I'll continue to help lead our department through reform. As we enter the next phase of the consent decree, we will move ahead with a culture of continuous improvement and innovation at the Seattle Police Department. This is what I expect. It is what our community deserves. And I know that great things are ahead. Oftentimes when I meet in the community, I've come to find that we have much more in common than we realize. We agree that people need to be treated fairly. We agree that the community trust in the police has to be enhanced. We agree that our department must reflect the communities that we serve. But most importantly, we can't do this alone. We must work together to make this world-class city safe. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to serve as the chief of police in this great city. I've said it many times, but it is a city I love, and this is the department that I love. I'm committed to safety, equity, unity, and diversity of our city, and fair and just treatment for everyone who resides in this city. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my family, my husband and 2 daughters who supported me every step of the way. My husband often says that he's the other man in my life because I'm married to the job. Now that I'm chief, pending pending confirmation, that is. I'm really married to the job and to my second husband, Larry. Sincerely, I thank you for the lifetime of support. Your support has helped us. You've been a great father to our 2 beautiful daughters, and I'm just so thrilled to be here. Lovely to see my command staff here who worked with me over the years to really be just a great part of what's helping the city move forward. And Andrew Meyerberg as well being here, appreciate it. So thank you all. I couldn't be more happy and more grateful. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
So we'll take a few questions. Did you have one? You looked like you did. No? No questions. Awesome. Have a great day. We'll see you later. I will also say, it wasn't in the prepared remarks, that Chief Best and I have a full couple of days. We're going to be going to a couple roll calls. We're going to be doing neighborhood walks together in parts of the city. And this afternoon, there's going to be a meet and greet in Bertha Knight Landis for anybody out there who wants to come meet our next Chief of Police and myself. So with that, questions? Go ahead.
So obviously she wasn't on the list to begin with. Nobody was very happy about that. Quickly she's back on the list. Now she's chief. How do you explain that?
What I think is, I love Seattle because people focus on process. I got the best chief of police right here, Carmen Best. And I've spent a lot of time listening to a lot of different people, read through all the materials. The other two candidates were very impressive. They impressed a lot of people throughout this community when I got feedback. I have little doubt that one or both of them will become chiefs of police in other cities. But given where we are in Seattle right now, in my experience and my judgment, we can't afford to slip on consent decree and reform. We have less than 2 years to get out from under that consent decree. And making sure that someone is chief of police who understands it, who doesn't have to get up to speed on it, is critical to us. Number two is, this city is under a lot of duress right now. Seattle's a hard place to live, and listening to community and helping our officers deal with that changing city, I think, in my judgment, needed somebody who understands community, understands Seattle, and understands what that growth has done to the job of being a police officer.
So did you want her on the original list and didn't get your way and then fought for her to get back? Or were you in agreement it should be an outsider and then somebody changed your mind?
No, what I'm saying today is I got the best chief of police. I went through a process that was like none other. 3,000 people were involved.
But you didn't answer my question.
I got feedback from all sorts of community, and that process was set up, as I said before. I thought it was fair, but I also told people, I've been around a lot of processes. Take Judge Robart, who's the federal judge overseeing the consent decree. I was on the merit selection committee that selected Judge Robart's name to be submitted to the White House. He wasn't chosen. A different person was chosen. He thought he was never going to be judge. But things changed. Another vacancy came open. He became judge. In Seattle, police chief searches, people drop out, they change. What we have to focus on, what does the city need? Who's the best person for the job? And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that Carmen Best is that person to serve the city of Seattle to be chief of police.
Do you think at all that this means or suggests that you're out of touch with what people want because of this flip-flop, and why or why not?
No, actually, I think that, we listened to more people through this process, including this last week. This last week was real. And you talk to Chief Best, and she'll tell you that it was a hard work going in front of all those community groups, sitting down with leaders. And every one of those candidates came back and talked to me about it. I talked to all the community groups. The important thing here is that this city understand we need a chief of police that can handle the next stage in the Seattle Police Department's growth. And I am 100% convinced we've got that today. We've got the best person standing next to me. We have the person I want to be chief. So that's what I want the people of Seattle to know is Carmen Best. I've worked with her. I know she's up to the task. And it's going to be a tough job, as everyone's seen. We are asking our police to do more and more in this city as it grows. So I'm focused on going forward to making sure that we work together to decide what reforms do we need in this police department? How do we adapt to this changing city? How do we make sure we don't lose ground under the consent decree? And how do we make sure that in this very robust city, where opinions are passionate and differ, that we're able to navigate a place that we do what's best for the city of Seattle? And I am convinced what is best for the city of Seattle is the person who will be the best chief, and that's Carmen Best.
How does Cameron McClay fit into this equation?
Yeah, great. Chief Best and I have talked about that. We believe that we're going to both sit down and talk to Cameron McClay. We've talked briefly about what kind of roles that he could play in the city. I've talked to the federal monitor. I want to meet and talk to the Seattle Police Commission. We're in a really precarious spot right now. We've had some departures from the monitoring team. We have a federal judge who demonstrated last week he is impatient and is not going to sit on the sidelines. So we have to make sure that we are hitting on all cylinders. Cameron McClay is recognized as one of the national leaders in police reform. I spoke with him at length at that when I met with him. I talked to the mayor of Pittsburgh about it. I talked to him again right before he withdrew. I think he is going to help us get to that next place we need to do. Not just stay in sustainment, but really navigate where we're going as a department. I said it before, I'll say it again because it seems not always to be translated. There is one chief of police. And after confirmation, that's going to be Carmen Best. Right now, she's the interim, only one chief of police. And we will work together on not just what the role of Mr. McClay will be, but we will work together on what do we need to do structure-wise for the police department. How do we make sure that we do what we need to reset discipline? what do we do going forward to make sure we work together to get a contract that is long overdue for those people who are serving in our community. So we've got a lot on our plate, and he's one of them.
Speaking of the contracts, Chief Best is re-included in the process, and then we hear that there's progress on the contract. Are those two related at all? I mean, it's fairly clear that the union favored Chief Best. Was that part of the discussions in helping those contract negotiations?
It hasn't been yet. We've had progress for a while. We've been meeting. When I came in as mayor, I met with the Police Officer Guild representatives. I've met with them multiple times to say, let's get back to the table, let's keep moving, let's keep moving. When things break down a little bit, we're pushing really hard. Obviously, we can't talk about what's going on in those negotiations because of federal labor law, but I am optimistic. I'd be more optimistic if I had Steve Militich's sources, but I am very optimistic, and Chief Best and I have talked a lot about how together we can help push that forward.
As a point of clarification on Cameron McClay, do you expect him to be a kind of a consultant from afar, or do you hope to move him to Seattle to work in this department here?
I think it's premature. I think until the chief and I have a chance, until she's confirmed, we have a chance to really sit down and look at where the gaps are, talk to the monitor to see where he thinks the gaps are to make sure. Remember, we still got to meet the federal court guidelines. We want to talk to the Seattle Police Commission, the Office of Inspector General, OPA, so we make sure that as we move ahead on reform, everybody's moving together. We can't take the time to backslide on reform, and we also can't be fragmented. So until we have the ability to have those conversations and figure out what the role is, talk to him about where he's thinking value added, it's premature for anybody to guess at what exact role he'll be in. But he is very enthusiastic about helping. We're very enthusiastic about having him help.
Chief Best, what would you
You
do?
talked about, at your press conference when Carmen was announced not to be in the finalists, you said that the one person that was in control over that was Carmen. Carmen has not changed. This whole entire time, she's expressed her enthusiasm for the position and her support for the city. So I'm curious, what was the one, can you pinpoint one thing that changed for you? What changed your mind or changed the process?
She got on the list of 3 that under the charter I can choose from. And so I wasn't in the original press conference, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
One
But
outside where you said that Carmen Best, the one person who had most control over, because everyone was asking you, why didn't she get in the final 3? You said the one person that has most control over this is Carmen Best.
yeah, and here she is.
Mayor,
All right.
last question. Last question. What do you say to the community? There was an outcry when Carmen wasn't selected. She's been looked at as possibly somebody who could heal the community with all of this. What do you say to the folks who were backing her from day one?
We've got, last week we had very, very robust community engagement in all parts of the community. And I got replies back from everyone on what their feedback was, who there was. As Chief Best and I have said, there's nothing in this town that anyone's unanimous about. And so for those people who are supporting Carmen Best, I say stick with her when she's chief. Don't head for the exit doors when it gets hard, because this chief and this mayor are going to need that backing and that help, because policing is hard. And we're going to rely not just on those people who supported her, but those people who had questions. Because when you're chief of police, you're chief for everybody. You're chief not just for the rank and file. You are the person who has to think about public safety in every corner of this city. And in every corner of that city, it translates a little bit differently. That's why we have to talk to community, be out in community. One of the things that I thought was one of the best feedback I got back is when we did the community forum for youth. One of the youth asked the question is, how do we know that we can hold the chief of police accountable? And youth from South Park, who I've met with in South Park multiple times now, said, well, we hold the mayor accountable because we see and talk to her all the time. That's how we hold them accountable. So being in community, absolutely critical. But it's a very diverse city, and we're going to be every part of the city.
Are you disappointed with the selection committee not putting her on the initial list?
No, I'm very happy that Carmen Best is going to be my chief.
Chief Best, as chief, what can you do once you actually become the permanent chief to address some of the public safety issues and public health issues as they intersect on our streets?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the priorities is going to make sure that we attack every issue of public safety. The intersection of public health and public safety, we can see it every day as we walk through the streets of Seattle. So we want to make sure that I'm working underneath the mayor, under her direction, with a multidisciplinary approach to make sure that we're being as effective as possible on it.
And I'll add, just here's an example of Chief Best and her work ethic. So we know how challenging policing is today in parts of our city and all the concerns that people have with that intersection of public health and homelessness and policing. So I called Chief Best one day. Where is she? She's parked in her car over at 3rd and James watching at 2 different times during the day because she wants to see and make sure what's really happening, boots on the ground. She's doing the same thing. She's walking and talking to people in Ballard and Capitol Hill and South Park and West Seattle. That's the kind of chief we need. So the first thing you got to do to address those issues is you've got to know what they are, and you've got to engage community. The second thing we have to do, frankly, as a city, and we'll be talking about this more going forward, is Seattle does not control the resources around behavioral health. If we want to address some of those issues that are so hard for our city right now, we know we have to address those public health needs dealing with mental illness, addiction, substance abuse. We need the county and the state to be a partner in that. And that's one reason we're working very hard to bring those people to the table so that we can get those interventions to help people, because we will not police our way out of a public health crisis. We know we need enforcement, but enforcement will not fix what's happening on some of our streets. The county has to step up, the state has to step up, the region has to step up. Because if we don't all step up together, it won't get better. Thank you very much. You have any more you want to say, Chief?
No, I'm good.
All right, let's go.
Support of the mayor.